the cameras flashed, the crowd froze, a heavy Brooklyn door swung shut, hiding them in the kitchen of an Italian restaurant. And just like that, Hollywood had a new obsession.
Oh, it really did.
Pete Davidson sparks new romance rumors after Elsie Hewitt breakup. Welcome to Starscope Report. Join Jordan and Jamie as they uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and viral influencer scandals. From red carpet surprises to social media controversies, we dive deep into the stories behind the fame.
We really do have a massive stack of celebrity news reports to get through today. Maybe we're pulling from TMZ, Us Weekly, Dumois, literally everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere. And our mission for you on this deep dive is to basically separate the sheer fiction from the facts, regarding Pete Davidson's incredibly fast-moving love life. We want to uncover the very real human machinery operating behind all these bold headlines.
Right, because looking beyond the headlines is really the only way to understand this specific news cycle.
Yeah.
Like when you actually trace the timeline, the mechanics of how a celebrity relationship is, launched, dismantled, and replaced, it becomes incredibly transparent.
Totally. It paints a completely different picture than the one dominating your social media feed right now. But to understand those mechanics, we kind of less have to start with the main event.
The kitchen escape.
Yes, exactly. The central, shocking visual that kicked off this whole current frenzy. So on Monday, August 3, 2026, Pete Davidson is spotted on what multiple witnesses are categorizing as a, quote, major first date with a 23-year-old Hulu reality star.
And, the way this information reached the public is just a masterclass in modern celebrity surveillance.
Yeah.
We aren't just talking about professional paparazzi waiting in the bushes anymore.
No, not at all.
We're talking about the Dumois effect. It's the democratization of tabloid journalism. Anyone with a smartphone sitting in a restaurant is now a potential source.
Right, everyone's a reporter now.
Exactly. And according to the footage and the reports that flooded TMZ, Pete and his date were attempting to slip quietly through the kitchen of Campania.
Which is a pretty well-known family-style Italian restaurant in Brooklyn.
Yeah, it is. And they actively avoided the main entrance. Like they were dodging the dining room floor just to access a private room.
I have a theory about this whole restaurant kitchen escape thing in Hollywood PR.
Oh, do you? Let's hear it.
I do. Look, if two famous people genuinely want to be completely invisible, they eat at home in a gated community, right?
Yes, so true.
Going to a popular Brooklyn Italian spot and intentionally taking the kitchen route, it feels like a controlled reveal. You give the patrons just enough of a glimpse to ensure someone, hits record on their phone, but you still maintain the illusion of seeking privacy. You basically orchestrate your own leak.
That is a really astute read on a situation, actually, because the restaurant kitchen is like the ultimate VIP runway.
Yes, the VIP runway.
It signals to the public that you are important enough to require special routing, which ironically just draws way more attention to you. And the visual messaging of this specific walk through the kitchen was incredibly striking.
Oh my gosh, the contrast was unbelievable. You have Pete Davidson playing the quintessential gentleman, right? Physically walking around the car to open the passenger door for her.
Which is sweet, but then you look at what he's wearing.
Right. Sartorially, he is in an oversized blue t-shirt and wide-leg black sweatpants. He is leaning fully into his trademark chaotic comfort.
Classic Pete.
Classic. But his date, meanwhile, she is dressed for a high-fashion editorial. A structured white corset top, dark wash jeans, towering heels. They look like they were attending two completely different events.
They really did. But once they got inside that private dining room, the reports indicate the chemistry was palpable. Pete paid the bill, and witnesses claim they were heavily engaged with each other.
Even though, predictably, a lone source told TMZ they were just friends.
Oh, of course. They're always just friends at first. But the label on the relationship is entirely secondary to the actual identity of the person sitting across from him. This is what makes this story so uniquely representative of 2026 pop culture.
Okay, let's pull the curtain back on Sarah Jane Nader, because my brain literally short circuits trying to reconcile her resume.
It's a wild resume.
It's so wild. She is not just a 23-year-old influencer. She operates in two totally different universes. On one side, she is deeply embedded in the reality television ecosystem. She's the younger sister of Sports Illustrated model Brooks Nader.
Right, and a core cast member on Hulu's reality series Love Thy Nader.
Yes.
And viewers of that show will probably remember her coming out as bisexual during the first season. Her last highly publicized relationship was actually with Alexis Williams back in 2024.
So she's used to the spotlight.
Completely. She understands the rhythm of cameras, confessionals, and narrative editing. Like, she knows how to exist under a microscope.
But then, this is the crazy part, you flip the resume over and the reality TV star vanishes. Sarah Jane Nader is also currently the deputy press secretary for the city of New York.
It's so jarring to hear those two things back to back.
Right, like she previously cut her teeth working on Zohran Mamdani's mayoral campaign, and now she literally handles municipal press relations for the city government.
The juxtaposition is brilliant, honestly. Modern fame no longer allows a person to just occupy a single lane. Building a resilient brand in 2026 requires cross-pollination across totally different industries.
I'm so fascinated by the psychological overlap here, though. On the surface, managing municipal zoning PR by day and dodging do more cameras with Pete Davidson by night sounds like a massive contradiction.
It sounds exhausting, honestly.
Right, but if you think about the actual skill set of a deputy press secretary like crisis management, framing narratives, anticipating public backlash, controlling the flow of information, those are the exact skills required to successfully date one of the most unpredictable, scrutinized comedians in the world.
Wait, that is such a good point.
She might genuinely be the most qualified person on earth to handle the Pete Davidson media circus.
Honestly, managing the press strategy for a major city and managing the public rollout of a high-profile romance, they both require an innate understanding of how a story will play in tomorrow's headlines.
Exactly.
It makes this pairing an absolute goldmine for the press because it basically bridges Capitol Hill and Hollywood Boulevard.
It really does. But, to understand how Pete ended up executing this heavily scrutinized kitchen walk on a Monday night in August, we have to rewind the tape. Because just a few months prior, his reality was entirely different.
Completely different.
And that's not even the wildest part of this timeline. If you're loving these Hollywood twists, make sure you're subscribed. We've got even crazier stories ahead.
So launching a new relationship in the public eye requires clearing the wreckage of the previous one, right?
Oh.
Pete was only back on the dating market because of a massive, highly publicized rupture in his personal life.
Yeah, a whirlwind romance that had escalated into a full family unit almost overnight.
Exactly. The timeline with 30-year-old model Elsie Hewitt is basically a case study in velocity. The initial spark is recorded in March of 2025, with heavy paparazzi documentation of them showing affection down in Palm Beach, Florida.
And then fast forward a mere 4 months to July of 2025. They publicly announced they're expecting their first child.
Just 4 months?
4 months.
Yeah.
The statements released at the time painted a picture of absolute elation, with Pete emphasizing that fatherhood had been a lifelong dream since childhood.
And by December of 2025, they welcome a daughter. The name they chose for her is loaded with historical and emotional gravity. Scottie Rose.
It's a beautiful name.
It really is. The name operates as a profound dual tribute. Scottie honors Pete's late father, Scott Davidson, a New York City firefighter who lost his life in the line of duty during the September 11 attacks.
And Rose is Elsie's own middle name.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Securing that name on the birth certificate signaled a deep, permanent tethering between these two people.
Which makes the main event so incredibly jarring. Just 5 months postpartum, in May of 2026, the entire structure collapses.
It just fell apart.
The couple abruptly splits. And we have to look at the sheer physics of the situation. I mean, having a newborn baby is universally understood to be one of the most stressful crucibles a couple can endure, even if they have been married for a decade.
Oh, absolutely.
Attempting to survive sleep deprivation and parental anxiety when you have only been dating for 9 months, when you are technically still learning your partner's baseline personality quirks, is an impossible pressure cooker.
The implosion was kind of inevitable when you look at it that way. But the way it played out in the public square was deeply modern. Elsie used social media to just completely bypass traditional PR statements and offer a raw, unfiltered view of her reality.
She posted a TikTok video, which was swiftly deleted, but obviously not before being immortalized by screen recordings, detailing the visceral, physical reality of single parenting.
It was intense.
She didn't just say she was sad. She described the, quote, deafening silence of a sleeping baby in an empty house. She talked about the sudden, terrifying realization that she hadn't consciously taken a deep breath for an hour or hadn't used the bathroom all day.
Yeah, she admitted she was entirely depleted trying to operate this machine on her own.
Anyone who has navigated the early postpartum months recognized that specific flavor of exhaustion immediately. The isolation can feel catastrophic.
You really can. And because the internet thrives on assigning heroes and villains, the parasocial machine just went right to work. A fan left a comment on Elsie's video declaring that a man choosing not to stay with his postpartum partner is, quote, insanely loser behavior.
And Elsie simply replied, Amen, sis.
Wow. That two-word endorsement was the match that lit the tabloid bonfire.
It really was. The narrative instantly crystallized across social media. Pete Davidson abandoned his postpartum girlfriend and his newborn baby. But, I want to push back on the simplicity of that narrative.
Please do, because it's rarely that simple.
Right. When you look at the actual reporting from sources like Us Weekly and the U.S. Sun, a massive clash emerges between the internet's perception of abandonment and the private reality of their arrangement. Was he actually abandoning his family?
Well, when you strip away the emotional rhetoric of TikTok comments and actually look at the financial and logistical data, a very different picture emerges.
What were the sources saying?
Multiple sources confirm Pete was fully financially supporting Elsie and the baby. We were talking about covering the rent for their living space, paying for comprehensive health insurance, and floating all daily operational expenses.
So he was executing his role as a provider in the most traditional material sense.
Exactly. The friction wasn't about a lack of resources. It was about an absence of physical presence. His work schedule during this 5-month postpartum window was objectively staggering. He wasn't clocking out of a corporate office at 5 p.m.
No, look at the calendar of commitments he was bound to. He was flying cross-country to Los Angeles to film the live roast of Kevin Hart, a high-profile television event that unfortunately fell directly over Mother's Day.
Oh man, Mother's Day.
Which is a massive emotional flashpoint for a first-time mother. And simultaneously, he was building and rehearsing material for a grueling 2026 to 2027 stand-up comedy tour, locking in dates across North America from Tacoma to Vancouver to Albany.
That alone is exhausting. But the physical demands went beyond just travel. He was in the middle of a complete bodily and psychological transformation to portray the real-life mafia hitman Tommy Patera in the film Tommy Karate.
Tommy Karate. Right. The contrast there is crucial. You have Elsie at home undergoing the intense physical and hormonal recovery of postpartum life. Meanwhile, her partner is undergoing an intense voluntary physical transformation for a role, all while traveling constantly.
It is the ultimate collision of conflicting needs. He's operating under the belief that working himself to the bone to generate massive financial security for his new daughter is the ultimate act of fatherhood.
And Elsie, drowning in the deafening silence of a newborn, doesn't need his bank account. She needs someone to hold the baby so she can take a shower.
Exactly. They were both completely valid in their needs and entirely incapable of fulfilling the others.
The tabloids capitalized on this tragic disconnect, totally turning a sad domestic reality into a villain versus victim narrative. But there was this massive legal maneuver quietly taking place behind the scenes.
Yeah, the dust had to settle in a very specific, formalized way before anyone could move forward.
Which brings us to the most strategic part of this timeline. How do we get from TikTok shade in May to Pete safely executing a highly visible date with a City Hall press secretary in early August without triggering a massive public backlash?
Right. How do you manage that transition?
You implement what I call a PR-controlled demolition. You cannot unveil a new skyscraper until the old building has been safely, legally, and publicly dismantled. Later in the deep dive, we'll talk about the shocking twist nobody saw coming that changed everything between them.
And that controlled demolition took the form of a heavily negotiated legal document. On July 31st, 2026, and pay close attention to that date because it is exactly 3 days prior to Pete's Brooklyn date with Sarah Jane, Pete, and Elsie, finalize a formal joint co-parenting agreement.
3 days. That is not a coincidence. That is a scheduled rollout. The agreement acts as a public shield.
It really does. The joint statement released to people on Us Weekly was a masterclass in neutralized language. They said, "We are cooperatively co-parenting our daughter, whose well-being remains our top priority, and we are fully committed to working together to give her love from both of us."
It strips all the oxygen out of the tabloid fire. You can't write a scandal piece about two people cooperatively co-parenting. And they backed up the statement with highly visible cinematic parenting milestones.
Like what?
For Father's Day, Pete carved out time from his tour prep to take baby Scottie and his own mother, Amy, to the American Museum of Natural History in Manhattan.
That creates an incredibly grounding visual. The chaotic comedian pushing a stroller past dinosaur bones with his mother.
Exactly. And then, exactly 1 day before the legal agreement went public, on July 30th, Elsie posted a sweet, totally normal update about taking her daughter, who she affectionately calls her Lil Strawberry, to her first swimming lesson.
When you analyze these moves, the level of emotional maturity required is astounding. The entire media ecosystem is built to monetize their anger, Every algorithmic incentive pushes them toward explosive public warfare.
But choosing a boring, legally binding compromise starves that machine.
It does. They accepted the failure of the romantic relationship to protect the permanence of their co-parenting relationship. Once that legal framework was locked in and announced on July 31st, Pete had essentially earned his clearance from the court of public opinion.
And then 3 days later, he can walk through a Brooklyn restaurant kitchen with a new woman, and instead of a scandal about abandonment, the press covers it as a standard celebrity rebound.
It is a brilliant navigation of an impossible situation.
Stay tuned and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next.
Because taking a step back and looking at the sheer velocity of this entire saga leaves you with a deeply unsettling realization about modern fame.
It's dizzying. If you map it out on a whiteboard, they meet, they fall in love, they get pregnant, they have a child. The relationship collapses under the weight of conflicting careers and postpartum stress.
Yeah.
They endure The X-ray machine of public scrutiny doesn't just capture the relationship right. The radiation mutates it. You've been listening to Starscope Report, where Jordan and Jamie uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.